Hey guys, Eric here. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Before we tune into the details today, I have one little favor I'd like to ask you. Are you listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? If you are, and if you haven't done it already, it would be so helpful to Anita and I if you could leave a 5-star review. It could just be putting 5 stars or even writing down something that you really enjoyed and learned from the episodes that you've heard so far. This kind of help would really improve our ability to give you better content and also to help other people find out about Taiwanica. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a few moments to do that if you haven't already, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Right? None
Exactly.
of it. Because if you understand love, is that even though I don't want to love you, I love you because you're family, right? It's just part of family aspects.
Right.
You know, and so now I just want to really connect this really close to the emotion, because that's the main point of this topic, right? Is with emotion, with family, and sense of security, these three things together, there is something very interesting that happens, okay? When you have family and you feel secure in that place, you're going to... This is episode 71, talking about a sense of security. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Taiwanica Podcast. This is Eric here, bringing to you now new information that we have discovered to help bring you a better, more happy life. So, without further ado, what is sense of security? Well, don't let me jump in too quick because I have forgotten to introduce the one and only Anita.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anita. How you guys doing? It's very happy. I'm very happy to be back on recording because we were taking a little bit of break to celebrate this gal's birthday.
Oh, yeah. And did we celebrate it well or what?
It's not well. It's fabulous.
Oh, yes, that is exactly right. It was so good. We went to Arizona.
Like,
Yep, and we went to see, where did we go see?
one of my bucket lists, Grand Canyon.
That's right, the Grand Canyon. It was...
So grande.
Yes, grande, grandioso. Yes, it was just so
Really
breathtaking.
Yes.
No pictures can describe how it really is. It's just amazing. So if you ever get the opportunity, definitely go check it out.
Yes, and in our previous episodes, we talked about the top 5 must go to. In the USA, we mentioned about more details about Grand Canyon. So if you're interested, go back there and check it out.
Absolutely. We'll put the link in the description down below for that exact episode.
Yes.
And also, before we dive into today's episode, we have 2 things that we want to do. One is our shout out of the episode, and that is going to one of our dear friends who actually came to the United States to come visit us and has been a big supporter of Taiwanica. And she herself actually donated not 1, not 2, but 3 coffees at buymeacoffee.com for Taiwanica. And her name is...
Sydney
from Taiwan. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much
for your donation to Taiwanica and helping us stay energized for every episode. Absolutely. And now, what was the other one that we were going to do today?
The other one is the one that you've been on to receive the interview from the podcast. It's called World Collides Podcast.
That's right. Worlds Collides Podcast. It is a wonderful podcast if you're interested in learning about how other foreigners from different countries move to these countries to experience culture, language, and the like. And they share their points of views, very similar to what we do here on Taiwanica Podcast, about how does a foreigner feel about living in a foreign country and what is their deep experience from that. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out the link in the description below. In today's episode, we will be sharing that from our good friend who is the podcast host over there.
Yes.
So definitely check it out. Yeah.
Very good podcast.
Yes, very fun indeed. So let's go ahead and talk about our episode of today.
Right.
And we have something that a lot of people would find to be, is this really an emotion? Is the sense of security actually something that I feel? I don't understand, because I thought security was something that was given to me, right? These are the questions that people often bring up when they think about security.
Right.
Anita, what's your point of view about sense of security?
I think sense of security is the root of our life. Think about it. If you don't feel secure, if you don't feel safe, you won't have good emotions, right? If you don't feel safe, you probably worry about things or living in the fear. So actually, there is a good connection between sense of security and your emotions. So actually, I have a research down here. It says security is actually your emotional security. So we will be diving into more about that and explaining why actually sense of security is one of a factor that affects your emotions.
Interesting. So it even sounds like it is a root of emotions.
Right.
If you don't have a sense of safety or security, I feel like we can interchangeably use these two words today.
Right.
Is if you don't have those, then you can't technically feel free to express any other emotion.
That's true. I'll give you an example. Is like if you are planting a seed, if the seed is not being planted in a safe place per se, if the seeds probably will get eaten by the squirrel, for example, or in the land's too wet or too dry, no matter what, if we don't have the sense of security for this seed, the seed will just probably die out or whatever.
It's gone.
It's gone. But if you are secure, the seed planted very nicely in the environments, like the seed doesn't have to worry about other things. The seed only need to worry about its own growth. Then what happened to the seed is it will start growing.
Flourishing.
Yes. And that seed being planted in the sense of security place, it's the root. So you start growing bigger and stronger. So think about our human is the same, right? If the baby was being put in the place it's secure, the baby is just going to grow bigger and happier. Human, we are the same. If you're going to be a little bit nerdy about this, it's like our root chakra, which is our first chakra when you do the meditation practice. That's the chakra in charge of security, right? If you don't feel secure, then you cannot go up, imagine your future, whatever, right? So it all comes down to the very first sense, which is sense of security.
I like it. I like the overall analogy of plants and then children and meditation. You're hitting all my favorite spots. Great job, Anita. So that's definitely the truth here with this sense of security, is that basically when we're focusing on, okay, if I feel safe, then pretty much everything else falls after that.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because in our life, our personal story that we'll be sharing in the middle of this episode, so stay tuned for that, is how are we feeling where we live now and how we are actually planning to change our lives to go somewhere else. Where is that? You'll find out later, okay? But for now...
You'll find out later.
Oh, laser. Pew, pew, pew. Okay.
Oh, God.
So let's go ahead and dive into the aspects of security, okay? Because there are a few of them. So we're going to be bringing up 4 aspects today about security. We're going to start with some of the ones that you would least expect, and then we'll go into the ones that are more, possible to expect for the sense of security. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start. So
you don't even waiting for my answer. It's like, why are you following asking?
I'm sorry. Who are you? Okay. The one that I really want to do today is focus on is societal security. I can't even say it. Let me try that again. Societal security. Okay. Okay. This one here is important to keep in mind because of a few factors. One, what is society? Okay. Society is the place that we live. Usually.
I thought you were going to be super philosophical. What is the word? I can't even say the word. Philosophical about.
Falafel about. Okay.
Falafel.
I love falafels.
Falafel's really good.
Mediterranean food. Okay.
Anyways.
So society is the place where we live, obviously, unless you live in a cave, but good for you. I don't know how you're listening to this while you're in a cave, but good job. Most of the time, for most people, you're living in a place where there are other people, okay? And what do other people do? Well, they get together. And what do? They talk, okay? And so what do they do while they're talking? Well, they're usually doing an event, okay? And so this is how society kind of runs. And so when you're doing an event with people, you're usually at a place, okay? And so this is where social security and societal security come into play, okay? So one of those things is very obvious. That is, if we are doing something, we're going to go to, say, for example, a community center, okay? When we go to a community center, we actually get to meet a bunch of other people there. And when we do that, what happens? We connect with strangers. We're doing an activity with those people. We're connecting with everyone on that level. It's just a really interesting way of communication that happens. And so what I'm trying to get at here is that with community centers, that's one way to be able to build. Another way to be able to build in societal standards is how can we connect with people through other standards, such as going to churches, okay? So churches can also be a place where we communicate well. Then when we do these kind of communications, what happens when we go to these community centers and churches? Well, we build relationships. And when we start building those, we feel safer around the area that we live. Just like planting seeds that Anita brought up before. The root that's been created helps us know that, if I'm ever in any trouble, I can always go back to that community center, or I can go to the church and communicate to that specific person I talked to before about my problem, whatever it may be. And they may not be able to help me, but if they cannot help me, that's fine, because they can actually send you to another place to plant another seed. You meet a new person, and that's how it kind of starts to develop. You build this garden through a social standard. And that, after doing that for a long period of time, you build a societal security. So let's bring this all into one example right now, and that is Anita and I. We moved to Oregon 2 years ago. Okay. And within 2 years, we've met quite a few people, and some of them are locals and some of them are Taiwanese and some of them are from other countries. By doing that, just by meeting people, connecting to people, doing this little bit here and there, the sense of security of being in this city has grown more and more, and we feel more emotionally safe to be ourselves in this area. So that is actually one major factor that you don't even realize that you're doing most of the time, right? You're just talking to people. It can even be a small chat. Like you go to McDonald's, you go talk to the cashier there. You do it one time, okay? But that one time counts as a seed. You go to McDonald's next week after that. You talk to the same cashier. You built a little bit more on that relationship. You do it enough, you might actually create a friendship from that, right? It goes like that. That's how a societal security works. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting. So it comes back to actually one of our very first episode of the season 2. We talk about sense of belonging. That's the strengths that you have in order to build your tribe, in order to build your community, build a friendship, and in order to get that societal sense of security.
You got it.
That's amazing.
I know. So it's just like we already have hit the second layer of it with sense of belonging.
Isn't it fun?
Now we're hitting the bottom layer of it. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. So that was the first one that I wanted to share. And it just really helps you understand that, wow, in the day and age that we live in now, where being an individual is, very common, but at the same time, it's a very life-threatening factor, because a lot of people these days, one of the most common things they say is that, and it's really ironic because we're so connected around the world with communication of like phones and internet and all these things, but the most common thing is people are lonely, and it's just really sad, because this idea of having a sense of security through your society is just not something that we're commonly taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we don't understand that this is a really important factor for us being in an emotionally balanced level, we don't do anything about it. And so we create actual emotional imbalances.
That's true. Very well explained. Thank you so much for the first one.
Absolutely.
Yes. So sometimes you should just, stop and think about and look around your life. And you can get a sense of security. Hence why you will get the emotional security as well.
I'll never forget when I was a kid and I went to the grocery store with my mom. Back then, people didn't have cell phones, right? And so people would wait in line to talk to a specific cashier, right? There's like 8 rows of people that they could talk to, but my mom would always go to the same row to talk to the same cashier. And I was thinking, why would you do that? There's a lane over there that's open. We could just go there right now. But she's like, no, we're going to talk to this lady. And I was thinking, okay, they're not friends. They're not buddies. They don't do anything together. They just would do that. And every time we go there, I was just a young kid. I didn't really realize, but I noticed that my mom felt safe to express deeper emotions with this person.
Sure.
Where on the other hand, if they went to another cashier, it would just be very small.
Yeah. Just being really, really grab the things that you want, pay the money and leave.
Yeah. Or start from the beginning again, build a small relationship up to being able to talk about deeper emotions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's interesting. But anyways, that was my last example. Go for it.
Of course. The next one, I would like to talk about the second one, which is financial security.
Ah, yes.
I gotta say, this one is probably the biggest struggle for most people.
Okay.
If you're not, good for you. But what I'm saying is that's all, the feedback that you heard from people, right? Oh, something just so expensive. It's impossible to afford something. I really wanted to do this, but I don't have the money to do so. So that's the reason why I said what I said, which is the financial security is probably the biggest issue that people are facing right now in this world. It's not just in Taiwan. It's not just in the USA. It's worldwide, especially, a lot of things after COVID, inflation, those kind of things.
Yes.
Right. So how can we gain financial security?
Okay, let's hear some ideas.
Okay. So every time we think about financial security, we think about financial freedom, which is like the ultimate, all humans' ultimate goal is to have financial freedom. But how to get to financial freedom? You have to do a small step each time. And that's the fun part because you get to practice every month because you get income every month.
That's true.
Even though you see yourself having the same income each month, people thinking about, the price is getting higher and higher, but my income stays the same. So what? You look at yourself and the income that you have, play with it. Like this is your chance every month to practice. Because nobody can tell you what is the best way to achieve that financial security because it's one kind of feeling we mentioned about in the beginning of the episode. So each person's feeling will be different. So you have to go just experience different kinds of number, different kinds of percentage, and to find the perfect balance of getting what you want and also at the same time satisfy and feel secure about the money that you have in your bank account. So this is the biggest idea you should keep in your mind. Each month is fun because you get your income that you get to practice and to find the perfect balance for you.
This is a really great topic. And honestly, we could talk about this in a whole episode, I honestly think.
Yeah.
But the one thing I really am curious about is how can we connect sense of security to our finances through an example? Like what is one thing that we all could do to increase our sense of security with our money?
That's really good questions. Because most people, they don't feel financial security is because they don't think they make enough. They don't think they can afford the things they want. But actually, it's not true. Find out the things that what you really want each month. We put in the effort to make money. We want to get that sense of like a reward from something, right? So income is a perfect example that you put in your time each hour, 8 hours, 9 hours a day. And then by the end of the month, you get the reward. So you should be able to take in control of how much you're going to spend. But we all know this like if you overspend it, you're going to be sad. So you won't have emotional security.
No, so that's a sacrifice that happens.
Yes. So every time the biggest lessons we always learn, either from your grandma, from your teacher, is never overspend it. For example, if you've made 50K each month, you're not going to go out each month to spend on 70K.
Right.
Doesn't matter that you are following your heart to buy a certain thing. You know you get to buy things, you have the joy for that moment. But if the things were causing you worrying about other things in your life for the next 6 months or for next year 2, year 5, then don't do it, because you will live in the fear for the next 5 years because you're being constantly worrying about a certain thing. So you won't get your security in any kind of aspect.
So no security in the finances is a consequence that affects your emotional security and also the security that you feel around you.
Exactly.
So if you don't have this sense of I am secure with my money, or at least I have a good plan with my money, then what happens with that as a result is very simple. You just don't feel safe at all.
The world you live in,
It's dangerous.
Like, oh, that person tried to rip me off by charging this amount of money.
And it can be really small stuff.
Exactly. Right? So you started to be like very stingy. So you don't have this kind of engagement with other people, and people think otherwise about you, and you start to judging other people. You know, it's all connected
like a snowball
together.
effect, right?
Exactly.
So it's really interesting because, and I think this is a perfect third sense of security. I don't think it's possible for this to be the first sense of security, because money is not necessarily a sense of security by itself, right? If you have a little bit of money or a lot of money, you can still technically feel secure in yourself.
Exactly.
It's possible. But the idea here that Anita is bringing up that I love is that you're feeling secure with your finances means that you have more bandwidth or just more flexibility with being able to express yourself in any kind of situation outside of your own life, right? So my life is I'm here right now, but maybe I want to go somewhere,
right?
Like just our example, going to Arizona. That would have been very financially stressful for somebody if they did not save for it, right? And so because of us saving the money to go to that trip and having that support in our society to be able to do that trip, we were able to feel free to do whatever we wanted during the trip, right?
And this is a perfect example because for us, like going to Arizona is, like it's affordable trip. It's reasonable price. But for some people, they might think it's too pricey.
Right.
For some people might think it's kind of like going from Taichung to Changhua, a trip, So that's fun thing about financial security is it's so practical. We're using it every single day. Everybody's using it. Doesn't matter you're broke, you're poor, you're rich, you're using this every single day. But at the same time, everybody's feeling towards this thing, this aspect is so different.
And it's such a taboo topic. A lot of people don't feel secure to talk about this with people. Just keep in mind that we have definitely felt like that before, and you can feel free to reach out to us if you feel the same way. One of the things that we've learned through our own struggles is ways to tackle this easily. And I think it's a really good time to share some tips. What do you think?
Yes.
Do you have any tips that you'd like to share?
I think that saved us from the scarcity of towards to money to where we feel secure is definitely the budget thing and the saving.
So budgeting and saving.
A lot of people is like, that's impossible to save. Ask yourself, just give yourself 3 months. For example, like each month you give it like $10,000, for example. Then 3 months will be $30,000. Just give yourself that little goal to say, I'm just going to save $30,000 and I'm not going to touch it. This will be, even though just have this amount of money saving there without touching it, it already give you the sense of security. Say, oh, I don't have to worry about.
I don't have to worry about something.
If today something happened, I know I have something there.
Yeah.
So they save your mental energy, meaning you can put in your wisdom to other parts of
your life.
For example, your life or budgeting. How can I make more money?
Right.
So sense of security, even though a lot of people just like, I'm not going to save, it's impossible to save money. By saying that, you are shutting down the door of getting richer.
That is so true. You are literally closing all opportunities around you to no longer be accessible by saying, I cannot.
And you telling yourself like, it's impossible to buy the house. Buying a house, the door shutting down. Shut down, not just shutting.
Shutting down.
It's like, yes. So like I said, each month, give it a try. Just start with something small. Everything is like this. I know we keep on saying those people have been saying that,
for hundreds of years.
Yes.
Budget, save, budget, save. Okay, let me give you a very clear example of how we budget and save, okay? So in our life, we are also, we're working on creating a successful business. We're like Taiwanica, yeah, okay? But for us to be able to make a budget strict enough that where we're able to not only make money and be successful, but also have opportunities to go on trips like we just mentioned, all comes down to budgeting concisely about everything that you do in your life. So I'm talking about how much money do you spend on food? How much money do you spend on your gasoline for your car or your scooter? How much money do you spend on entertainment each month? Make a limit for each one. Now, I'm not saying when you do the budget that you have to stay only in that range, right? So for example, our budget for entertainment right now, I think is $75 a month. And that's usually enough for us to go out and do some fun things. We're able to go out to a couple restaurants. We're able to maybe even go see a movie or, something like that. And with that money, sometimes we go to $80 instead of $75. But we just having the budget to see, oh, I've already spent $75. Then you just know consciously that you don't need to spend any more this month, right? Just stop. You stop for that month until the next budget comes in. You're like, yay, you feel excited about it.
Yes.
You have new money that you can use for that specific thing. And you're staying responsible around that budget line.
Right.
And when you do that, wow, guess what happens? All of the things in your life are starting to match that. And on top of that, you're able to do the things that you really want to do, not the things that you're hearing about or you're just thinking about unconsciously. You're like, yeah, sure, why not spend some random money? You're doing the things that you really want to do. And on top of that, you're staying in a money budget zone. You're staying in this zone. And when you're going into the next month, you realize, whoa, I actually just saved like $200-$300. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Where does that money go? Into your savings, right?
Yes. And I think just by really sitting down, look around your life and setting up budget, just giving yourself the awareness. Because I've heard so many people say, are you spending this much money on subscription? Because, a lot of platforms that need a subscription, like memberships. So each month, and they are very smart because you can set up like a automate payment, right? Each month.
Yes.
So you're just, it's small money, then I can totally do that. But at the same time, you didn't put in the awareness about how much money you're spending each month.
Right.
So by just looking around your life, what is the things that you need to spend each month? For example, like the gym membership or shopping for yourself or gasoline, those kind of things. Just give yourself the awareness to pay more attention about every time when you are going to spend money. So you generate more gratitude towards to that too. Because at the same time, you are like, oh, I'm in control. this is the feeling that you should associate with your money. Most of people just feel like they are not in control every time they get the same amount of income and life just spending all the time. I have to hang out with my friends. Someone's birthday is coming. You don't feel like you're in control. You feel like most of the time you're forced to spend this much money in order to get something.
Right.
But like I said, you set up the budget, give you awareness about your lifestyle, and you literally think about like, is this friend I wanted to keep around? Maybe I hang out with that because of peer pressure. You got overall thinking about your life. So there is no bad aspect come from that, setting up the budget.
I hear a question coming up in probably a lot of people's heads right now, which is, okay, that's very nice, but how do I do that? So let me give you a very clear idea of how you can do that, because Anita's idea of explaining everything is super important, but we got to know, how is this effective in anybody's life? Okay. Do you have a phone? Well, I'm pretty sure you do, because you're probably watching this on your phone. Or listening to this. So all you have to do is go into the notes section of your phone and create a note for your budget. And all you have to do after that is go through your credit card statements or check out your, receipts. Keep your receipts. And if you're in Taiwan, I know you keep your receipts because you're
doing something called,
the e-receipt, right?
Like something, yes.
Yeah, the e-receipts. Yes. So you can look through what you've been spending. Okay. But just basically look at your income that you get from your work. How much money you're making. Okay. That's your baseline. Now you're looking at, okay, how much money am I spending for rent? If you're, renting a house, or how much do I pay for my mortgage if you're buying a house? And then check out anything else that's big that you have monthly, like your monthly subscriptions, your car payments, if you have a car, okay? Any of these things that are no matter what going to happen every month, get those written down first. They are the most important to get down. After that, set up a budget in your mind that feels comfortable. Like for us, we have a food budget of $150 a month. That is comfortable for us based on our budget and how much we like to eat. Okay, so find a budget number that works for you. Keep in mind, if you make a number, stick with it for a couple of months. Try it for 2 or 3 months and see, is this really comfortable for me or not? Am I spending more than I usually should in this area? And then just adjust things. You can change $20 in one section and then put it into another. That's what we did.
Right.
And when we got comfortable with our budget lines, we stay in them. And when we stay in them, we feel emotionally secure.
And emotional stable as well.
Yeah, stable. Sometimes we're just like, sometimes our bills, we're like, oh,
yes,
what is happening?
And we started to blame like, oh, it's definitely because the rent is too high, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Look at this house, You start to find like a little bit of negative expecting more.
Well, that's just the emotions, like the
It
angry
is.
emotions, right?
Yes.
But in reality, it's really not like that. It's just a matter of how you are going to be responsible for the money that you make. It's really that simple.
That's true.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. So now that we hit most of that, is there anything else that you would like to share about finances?
We'll be right back.
I really like journaling, but I always end up with no time or cannot find a journal that I really like. So I was like, hey, let me create one. So here it is, a self-help journal created and designed by Anita. Inside the book, I provide very simple and easy to follow template. For example, in the morning, to-do list. In the evening, gratitude practice. So you can use a very little time to start this healthy habit. Go ahead and check it out in our description down below or go to our buymeacoffee.com. It's something that has to do with your emotions, and there is a really cool tip I actually learned from
please share.
From someone else. It's like budgeting is great. And sometimes it's like, oh, this month is my birthday. I just want to spend a little bit of money, right? But
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But if this spending a little bit of extra money or a lot will causing you a lot of stress in the future, then this is when you feel like you're losing control. Either you lose the things you really wanted to buy or you lose the money, right? So it's like, oh, geez, how are we going to do? So simply put is you already have the awareness by setting up budget, right? So now you think about deeper. If this is the thing you really want, you're going to enjoy this thing for the next certain amount of time, then go get it. But if your answer come back is like, no, you're just buying this because it's impulsive shopping or whatever, you can still gain the control back by simply putting the money, like certain amount of money, for example, you wanted to spend $500 for certain things. But if this thing will causing you stress in the future, then you just simply transfer your income account. Like you transfer $500, that's the money you are supposed to spend on the impulsive shopping. This amount of money from income account to your saving account.
Ooh.
You are in control. It's like, hell yeah,
true.
I feel like I got like $500
That's true.
to saving.
That is
Then
very true.
you see your saving money goes higher and higher. You know in the future you are able to enjoy something bigger than this impulsive shopping, whatever item.
That is very true.
Yeah, just by think about it and do this kind of thing, you're still in control. That's how you get financial security. And when you feel like that, you feel happy. So again, emotional security.
I love it. And that's the one thing I really love about savings is that not only do you get that sense of like in the future, I'm set if something happens, but on top of that, savings alone has this powerful thing called compound interest, and so every time that you are doing saving, you're going to start seeing even more money rolling in. Like, oh my God, I got this much money coming in right now. That's crazy, It isn't expecting that, so it's just a really interesting aspect that can happen, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. So, just like I said, have fun with it. Don't always feel stressed about your money. Don't care about how much money the house is going to cost. If you gain this skill, I would say this is definitely a skill everybody should learn.
Absolutely.
You are in control at least one part of your life. Then how are you going to get a house? You will figure out a way because you already have the knowledge about budgeting, adjusting, flexibility, everything. Then more likely, like I said, you will gain more and more money, more and more freedom, and you can get bigger things in the future.
You got it. That is definitely true.
Yep.
So I think these 3 aspects that we've talked about so far have been fantastic. They literally have give us a clear idea about how everything interconnects, right? Money, friendships, and, like societal connections, and also our emotions are all intertwined.
Right.
Now, the last one that I wanted to talk about, which I think a lot of people don't think about a lot, but I want to just bring it up here in today's as the last topic, is family. Okay. So
just kidding.
Number 4 is family. Now, how does family, and we're going to look at this from both an American and Taiwanese point of view. Okay. So how does family and sense of security connect? Okay. This is one of the reasons why we all have families in some way or another. No matter how broken your upbringing was or how perfect it was, we all have somehow connected with people to the point that we would consider them a family figure, okay? Unless you were in a very, very strange condition where you lived on a solitary island where somehow you have Wi-Fi and you're listening to this, okay? But the whole point I'm trying to get at here is we are all in this world with other people, okay? And some of these people we grew up with or they helped us grow, okay?
Right.
And so we consider these people family, and somehow just knowing that they exist or they are a part of this world with us gives us a sense of security. Why? Why do we get a sense of security from these people? Well, if you look back hundreds, thousands of years ago for humans, how did we survive in a world of hungry animals and dinosaurs? There's no dinosaurs when we were here. But, how do we survive with all the cold and, scary animals that lived in the forests with us? Okay. We did because we were together, our unity. This is very similar to community, but the only difference here is that back then there were no community centers. Back then, there were no churches. You were all working together to survive.
Right.
That's the key word. Okay. So in cases in life where things are going wrong or they're not going well, what do we do in these scenarios? Well, one of the main people that we connect to in those situations are our family members, because they are the people that when everything else is going wrong, they are still there to talk to you about it. That sense of security right there, everybody. We have the sense that whenever we're going to be in a life-threatening situation, we have that emotional support to connect with someone. Even if we don't have good connections with them, we can still reach out to them for help in a survival stance. Interesting, right?
Yeah. So just like I mentioned about in the beginning, like when you're having a baby, the first thing that you are going to get, I mean, as human, when the first time you are born, the first sense you're going to get is the sense of security. It's like the basic requirement for every human life, which is survival. Like I know no matter what, I'm going to live because I have my mom. That's why, you know, all the babies are super connected with their mom when they first were born. Like even animals, like, you know, dogs, everything, like all the animals, they have this strong connection to their mom because that's the way they can grow. If they don't have this survival support or whatever, they are not going to go anywhere. They're just going to die. Then your life ends. So this is the first, sense of security is very important for human beings, especially when you mentioned about like family. Even though I don't tend to have spending a lot of time with my family, but just knowing they are in Taiwan actually gave me a sense of security.
Now, I'd like to ask you, since you're bringing that up right now,
right?
From a Taiwanese perspective, do you think family is a very important sense of security, even when you're an adult?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Because that we know where we come from. We know no matter what, even though we have a lot of arguments, even though we have so, like generation gap, whatever you wanted to call it, like our point of view about life, about everything just so different. But no matter what, we know they're going to take us in if we go home. So it's all in everybody's mind. Like, doesn't matter what. I know if I'm going back right now because of, my marriage has failed or my business has failed, I lost a lot of money. No matter what reason is, you go back home, they are going to, no matter what, scolding you, say, I told you not to do that, but
I told you that was a bad idea.
I told you never listen to your mom, things like that. But they're just going to say all these kind of things. But their heart still always accepting you for who you are, even though they never say that, but that's in their heart.
I love it. And so I'm going to take that and just put it into an American twist here, Eric style. And that is, when we were just in Arizona the other day, we stayed at my sister's house, and I haven't seen this sister for 20 years. Like I did see her earlier than that, but we weren't really communicating in any way. But the last time we actually had a link together was about 20 years ago. And the very first thing, when I first opened the door to her house, I saw a sign. And that sign on there said something that completely connects to this. No matter what, family. Okay, that's what it said. No matter what, family. And that right there says it all. Is that for her, she understood that whenever things hit the fan or go crazy, out of the wire, out of the blue, she knows that family comes first. And she has felt that sense of security from that.
Right.
And so when I saw that and I connected with her, I knew automatically that we could link without any need to be polite or work up a relationship like at the grocery store with the people. We were automatically full trees, not seeds, trees. And we're just completely connected without any of that time meaning anything. And so with that sense of security, I actually built a more sense of security in myself because I now know that I have another sister who is willing to watch out for me in case anything were to happen. And me for her as well, So
Are you sure about that?
I don't know, maybe. But yeah, so it's very fascinating, don't you think?
And just like every time when even though we have like arguments with our parents, like I have nothing I look like nothing like let me say it again.
All right. I'll give you one more chance. Maybe two.
I look nothing like my mom. Doesn't matter how much you want to deny, the connection was still there, and then just so strong,
Yes, it's so strong.
It's impossible. I think that's like our biology, just like that, either it's like from our genes, genetic fact or whatever it is. Just like family is just always together, and it doesn't matter how far I wanted to run away from my parents. Every time I see my sister, I was like, oh damn it, we look like the same.
You do. You and your sister look so similar.
And sometimes I look at my photos like, oh my god, I look like my mom.
Oh yeah, you do sometimes too.
Yes, but even though we were complaining about that, because this kind of relationship is very funny, because we want that person to be exactly what we want them to be, and they are the same to us. Like, you're my kids, I want you to be a certain way. Yes, but we are just trying to be so different,
right?
Just to piece each other off.
Yeah. But that's family, don't you think?
That's family,
and if you think about it from a family perspective, that totally makes sense. But a sense of security sense is that none of this matters.
Right.
None
exactly.
of it. Because if you understand love is that even though I don't want to love you, I love you because you're family, right? It's just part of family aspects,
right?
And so now I just want to really connect this really close to the emotion, because that's the main point of this topic, right? Is with emotion, with family and sense of security, these three things together, there is something very interesting that happens, okay? When you have family and you feel secure in that place, you're going to feel an emotional sense of security. And that means that you're going to feel safe enough to do new things. You're going to feel safe enough to try new things. You're feeling safe to express yourself in different ways, because somewhere out there in the world, you have a safe place to go. Okay. But on the other hand, let's say, for example, you used to have a parent, but that parent is no longer here. Like, for example, my mother recently passed away. And so with that, for people who have lost someone in their family that they used to have, what happens to them emotionally, right? So that sense of security also disappears too. So what do you do in that kind of scenario? Well, the first thing is to acknowledge it, acknowledge that, oh, I used to feel more secure emotionally than I do now, because a person that I used to rely on for being secure emotionally is no longer there. So that's why I'm feeling more angry. I'm feeling more insecure. I'm feeling sadder. All these things is because you have lost a link, a very important link in your emotional security. Okay, that's a humongous thing to realize. Okay. On the other hand, if you are, having someone that passed away and you don't have any way of linking that to somebody else, okay, that means you're going to remain in this emotional insecurity until you decide, okay, maybe it's a good idea to find another person to build this emotional relationship with. Okay, so for me, before, I had my mother, who I would rely on for all these emotional securities. And when she passed away, fortunately enough for me, I already had Anita, who was here to be that anchor, to be that tree. That's our example here, tree, to express my emotions with. So the transition of emotional security for me was actually a very stable one. Okay. So think about it for you. If you are in this kind of situation right now, who could you transfer this emotional security to? Because it's important. It doesn't have to necessarily be a family member, but think about someone that you can rely on for a long period of time, because that person is going to take on this very important role for you. You need to have emotional security. That's what this whole topic is about. If you don't, then everything else in your life will start to be unstable. So keep that in mind. Family security is very important to have. And if you don't know how to gain it inside of your family, look outside. You definitely have people that you're close to. Find someone that you can rely on for this, because it's definitely an important factor.
Right. And, just like practice. And if you look at yourselves like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you're a different person. So you don't expect other people will react the same way. So there's always more than second chance. Just give it a try because we are all human. We don't even mention we're all just family, right? You lost contact with your father for so long, but you guys are still able to rebuild relationship and rebuild the sense of security, even right now include your long lost sister.
Yeah, just to give some insight for the fans, I didn't have a relationship with my father for about, I think, 20 years as well. Different 20 years from my sister. But for the last 10 years, we've been reconnecting, and that has built an emotional sense of security for me.
Right, because that's all life is about. You can always definitely have the ability to rebuild something. Doesn't matter you have lost your beloved parents or beloved family member. There is always new family member. There's always new situation for you to practice that.
Especially if you're looking for it.
Yes.
If you're looking for someone to help you with that, then it will happen without a doubt. So just keep that in mind. It's definitely possible for anybody. If you want it, it will happen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good place for us to...
Stop?
Yeah, what?
Shut up.
Shut up. We're going to say, this is Eric and Anita here talking about sense of security. If you really like today's episode, definitely check it out on YouTube and Instagram. Also, if you really liked our episode and want to support us, definitely check us out on buymeacoffee.com/Taiwanica.
Yep.
And finally, we are about to podcast our brand new website. We're very excited about that. So we will tell you more about that in the next episode.
Yes. We'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Taiwanica. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.